It is Tuesday, January 22nd, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, again, good evening and welcome. Should we do a roll call?
Councilor Perry.
Present.
Councilor Hilton.
Present.
Councilor DeMederos.
Present.
Councilor Katz.
Present.
Councilor Coulter.
Present.
Councilor Cook.
Present.
Councilor Driggs.
Present.
All present.
Great. Okay, we have a lot of stuff on the executive session and two items for the open session. The first is the ratification of the renewal employment contract for Mr. David Robert, our tax assessor. I think this has been discussed a couple times, and the salary adjustment would be retroactive to December 10th. And we wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to take a look at the changes. Did you want to add anything further to that, or?
Nope. Nope.
Okay. So, I think we're looking for a motion to...
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to ratify the 3-year renewal employment contract for David Robert, tax assessor, from December 11, 2018 to December 10, 2021.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody wish further comment? Any objection proceeding to a vote? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Very well, 7-0. The second item is Councilor Katz, resolution with approval and ratification of the town solicitor contract. Over to you.
All right, I drafted this because there's been some question and allegation that a ratification of the solicitor's contract requires a vote, or that the contract requires a ratification vote. I don't agree with that, and I don't think the sense of the majority of the council is that it's necessary, so there are some whereas clauses laying that argument out. In the interest of time, though, rather than read that all, I would prefer just to move the resolution as included in our packet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Did the solicitor wish to opine on this further, or?
I don't see anything that I would object to in the resolution as presented.
Any further discussion?
I have comments.
Okay.
I actually, I slightly don't understand, because if the point is we don't need a resolution and we don't need to ratify this contract, but we have this multi-page resolution, which bothers me in some cases, because there are things in here that are actually not true. There are statements that are made in here as if they are statements of fact, and they are not in actuality correct. There is also a fair amount of sort of editorializing in here, which I don't think is appropriate either. You know, a ratification of a contract does not require a resolution. This almost seems to me more to be like a piece of campaign literature than an appropriate resolution for the ratification of this contract. But I really do object to the council voting on something because essentially the council saying these are findings when there are things that are not accurate in here. I also am very concerned about the sentence that says, and again, this would be a finding of fact, whereas though at least a majority of the members of the town council and the town solicitor. I don't really know how you can state a majority given that we haven't had a discussion or a vote of how the majority feels about it. This, you know, again, has the earmarks of, I'm sorry to say it, a rolling quorum. And I will be very honest with our town solicitor that I don't really understand how our town solicitor in particular, given that this is your contract we're discussing ratifying, is comfortable commenting on it. It doesn't seem appropriate to me. You know, if you want specifics, I'll be happy to give them. Otherwise, I'd like to be on record as saying that I strongly disagree with a number of the statements in this proposed resolution. The second thing that I would like to point out before we go forward on this is that I don't agree that it's possible for the town to enter into a legal binding contract that has been seen and created by a subset of the council, not the entirety of the council. The powers that are granted to the town to enter into an agreement like this are given to the body. And in order for that to be executed, the body has to be able to deliberate on it. We were never given copies of this contract to see the night of the appointment. They simply were not available to us. You know, it's not acceptable. And frankly, at that meeting, President Coulter said at the end of the meeting, and it's on the tape, well, obviously people haven't seen this contract, so we'll get it out there and then we'll get it teed up so that everybody has an opportunity to weigh in on it. Because I said that night, there are things that are in this professional services agreement that I'm very uncomfortable with and I don't understand, and I've never been given the opportunity to get my questions answered. So, you know, I'd like to have my questions answered.
Rob, can Trish ask her questions? Well, that's what she wants to ask.
Well, I'm looking at Justin just because he's the sponsor here. So what you want to do is ask questions about this contract right now?
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is my first opportunity. I never got to see this contract.
Well, I don't know if that's accurate, but...
That
No,
isn't
this is
accurate.
my first opportunity at a meeting of the public body to be able to ask questions about this contract. I was never given this contract at the meeting where Mr. Ciccione was appointed.
Mr. President, can I just, for the record, indicate when you listened to the minutes, it was clear the night of the 27th when Mr. Ciccione was here, and he offered to give people his proposal, and 3 people recused. So I just want that on the record.
Nancy, I disagree with that because we did come back to the table and we asked him questions
were
about his
recused.
salary. Please, I have the floor. We asked him questions about his salary. He said it would be the same as Tony received, and we did ask him a couple of questions. We didn't participate in the interview because we did not approve of the way this was being done and rushed forward. So I totally disagree with what you're saying, but I realize at this point, the 4 of you are never going to agree with the 3 of us, and we have so many more important things to do here with this town council that it's almost to the point that it's not worth arguing with you. I will have to say, though, I read Justin's resolution, and he's comparing apples to oranges. He mentions my name a couple of times, so I feel I need to say something about that. Tony DeSisto and the town entered an agreement, not a contract. I never signed it, and Tony never signed it. That's what we are objecting to. Rob signed an agreement with our attorney, which to me is a contract. The council at that time decided not to enter a contract with Mr. DeSisto. We asked the town the town administrator to speak. The 7 of us decided that the town administrator was going to speak with the attorney and come forward with an agreement. It was never signed, and that is the point here. Rob signed a contract. The lawyer signed a contract. That becomes a contract, and that needs ratification. I never signed a contract. Attorney DeSisto never signed a contract. It was an agreement, and that's the difference between the both of them. And I was there, and I was there with the 7 of us, and I feel that that council did nothing wrong. And nobody came forward and said, I should have ratified it because it was not a contract. It was not signed by me or the attorney at the time. So you are comparing apples with oranges at this point. And like I said, the 4 of you are never going to agree with the 3 of us. And this contract, I agree with Trish, there's a lot of questions concerning this contract, and like I brought up the last time, the salary. It was stated it was the same financial difference, and it is not. So it's fine. We're never going to agree with it, and someone else is going to have to determine who's right or wrong here, but I have to say that it's getting to the point that this is interfering with what we were elected to do. Trish?
I'm waiting to find out.
Well, I
if
kind of
can-
took your floor.
I'm waiting to find out if I can ask my questions.
Sure, we can.
Can I, to the chair? Is this on? All right. I guess I'm having a problem with that nothing was ever signed, but yet he stood in the solicitor. Like, how did that happen? Like, who voted for that? Like, he came in every meeting for 3 years and...
It was
there
an
I don't understand how
agreement.
that
It was
happened.
not a
How did that
contract.
happen? I don't understand how
We
that happened.
voted for the agreement, not a contract. Like I said, this is becoming ridiculous, and this is really becoming ridiculous.
I don't know, Denise, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes, it
You have
does.
someone
At the
come and be the
ti- you know,
solicitor, and no one
it's
ever
really,
signed anything.
really, what you people are
keep
doing-
talking about something that was ratified, and it has to be ratified.
We did not
And you're
ratify
telling
it.
me you never signed anything, and someone kept showing up as a solicitor. I don't understand.
Well,
I'm
Because,
just not
Donna-
getting it.
First of all...
First of all, go ahead.
I mean, I have no idea. I wasn't here then. I don't know what happened then.
Well,
I
then let
don't-
me explain it.
but
It was
how
an
does-
agreement, not a contract. And at the time, if you look at the minutes,
I think those are synonyms. I mean, I actually agree
well,
with a lot of
Rob,
what you
I
said, but
absolutely know
it's hard to-
but there was...
I mean, an agreement and a contract is a binding legal obligation.
Oh, wait a
And
minute,
that's-
because you've been arguing with us, it isn't. Okay, you've been arguing with us for the last 3 weeks that it isn't.
Oh, that's not true.
No, that is true. I have it on tape. It is true.
I wasn't here then. I have no idea what happened and whether or not something should have been signed back then or shouldn't have been signed back then. I couldn't tell you. I mean, heck, we could go back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to look at different things that the town has done. But all I'm saying is that, and this is my opinion, that only the body has the right to encumber the town into a binding agreement. And when you have a legal document, whether it's a contract or it's an agreement, and you have signatures on it, and the town is bound now by what is on that piece of paper, that those documents can only be approved by the body of the council, that individual councilors, without the approval of the body, don't have the authority to sign legal agreements. That's my opinion and my position. But I would like to ask my questions about what is actually in this contract, because it has never been in front of me before at the council table where I can ask these questions. I did not have this on the 27th.
Okay. Do you want to, Gio, you want to take some questions on this, since I think that's germane to the resolution?
I'd be
since,
happy to.
Perhaps then we'll gain support, Councilor Hilton, on this vote.
So I have a question on the support for the planning board and the zoning board. And let me just, I'm sorry, I didn't mark it on my piece of paper. Here we go. Number F, provide legal advice to all boards, commissions, and agencies of the town except the Tiverton School Department. Prepare for and attend selective meetings of the zoning and planning boards as may be reasonably required in the event of an appeal to protect the interests of the town. Does this mean that we will not have regular legal representation at planning board meetings and zoning board meetings?
So my impression from looking, I did go back about 10 years and looked at the contracts that were available, and it was really just two. It was Tony DeSisto's letter in response to the RFP, and then Ursula Teitz's contract with the town. And so the language that you see in here was pulled from those agreements, and some of it mirrored with both of them. But so that's where the language came from. In response to your question more directly, I've, at this point, planned on attending each of the regular planning board and zoning board meetings, and I've attended all the ones up until this point. My impression, talking to the folks at those boards, is that for non-controversial meetings where there aren't significant agenda items being voted on, it may not be necessary. And I think that's going to be a back and forth and a question of the working relationship with those boards. If they don't need counsel, obviously, I can spend time doing other things in support of their efforts, but attending the meetings may not be necessary. But if it is necessary, I'll be there.
I have Tony's contract in front of me, and it says land use, zoning, and planning, including representative of the town at all zoning and planning board meetings, advising town officials regarding zoning and planning applications. But it does say all planning board, all zoning and planning board meetings, so it is different.
And if I may, as I said, I looked at 2 different agreements to pull this language, so that may have been from the Ursullo Tights agreement.
This is the last
Right,
agreement.
although Ursullo and Tights didn't do our land use and zoning. They did,
Right, but
Peter Ruggiero did our land use and zoning when Andy was here.
right, when Andy was here, he did not do it. Tights did not do our zoning. DeSisto did do our zoning, and this is what it says in DeSisto's contract.
I guess what I want to be sure of is that the planning board and the zoning board, at any time they have an applicant in front of them, will have legal representation in the room with them.
I'm not sure that's the same thing that they've asked of me, but I think that's a fair point you make. I think the question becomes, what's the best use of the town's resources? I mean, I think I view this as an iterative process. I'm not sure what you've asked of me, but at this point, I've agreed to go to each of the meetings, and if that's what the council decides, then I think that's a fair interpretation and a fair assessment.
Can I jump in? Is this going to be relevant to, I think, is it Stu's coming next week to talk about legal?
No, it's just what's in the contract.
It
I
may.
would just say it's coming up, I think,
It may be relevant to that, but this is a binding legal document that says selective meetings as may be reasonably required in the event of an appeal. So I just want to make sure that the planning board and the zoning board will have regular legal representation anytime that there's, in general, which is, I think, their preference, that if they've got an applicant in front of them, who often comes with their own attorney, that in turn they will have somebody sitting with them to represent the interests in the town and to protect them. And I understand occasionally the planning board has a meeting where they don't have any applicants, and they might say, we don't need you. But if there's an applicant there, I think they need legal representation, and the zoning board doesn't have meetings unless they've got applicants in front of them. So that's a,
I think that's a fair assessment, and that's the interpretation I'm working under right now.
Okay, so the understanding here, though, is that if there's a meeting with an applicant, there'll be an attorney at the meeting.
Correct.
For both of them, okay. The second question I have about this has to do with conflict of interest. The second paragraph. The town agrees that if any particular litigation matter shall arise in which a town official is an adverse party, the town shall seek an advisory opinion from the Rhode Island Ethics Commission as to whether in the particular circumstances, including a supervisory role or the exercise of authority in hiring the solicitor, causes any conflict which might require the hiring of a special counsel relative to that particular matter. So, I mean, first off, the town can't seek an advisory opinion, an ethics opinion. The town as a body can't do that. Only individuals who may have a conflict can seek an advisory opinion. The town can't go to the Ethics Commission and say, this is the town of Tiverton. That's not how it works. It only applies to individuals. And the other thing is, the town has no authority anywhere unless we put it in a contract for an employee. We have no authority to require anybody to seek an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission. It's voluntary. I mean, with all due respect, there were 100 people in a room a couple of weeks ago suggesting that certain counselors seek advisory opinions, and they declined. You can't, you hope that people will do it, but we don't have any authority to force anybody into an ethics opinion. So I don't understand this, I don't understand this clause. We can't do it.
My sense in drafting that language was that, my client is this body. And so the individual members of this body compose it. And I think if there are individuals who would have a question that should go before the Ethics Commission, you're right, they should sign that request. But the town could certainly suggest it, and I could certainly provide counsel in preparing it. And so I understand your point. I think maybe the language, could be more clear, but I don't think it's, inaccurate to say that the town is putting some resource, or at least making the request of the individuals, or assisting the individuals to get those opinions. This is, I can't require an individual to do that. What I'm saying is that this board, the individuals that comprise this board, agree that if we need ethics opinions, we should ask for ethics opinions.
But that's not what it says.
Well, that's not what it says. It says that the town will, and even at that, this body has no authority to force anybody. I mean, an ethics opinion, which it's important, I think people should get them, but it's a voluntary thing. This body has no authority to force anybody into getting an ethics opinion unless it's, written into somebody's contract. I mean, we can't. So, and frankly, I worry about a clause like this being in here, that it creates some liability for us, because somewhere along the line, somebody doesn't get an ethics opinion, and now we've got this piece of paper that says, that the town is somehow going to do this, and we just don't have any control over it. So I'm really uncomfortable. I mean, I love the premise. I think people should get ethics opinions, but I'm very concerned about the language.
I'll just say to your point, I think if there's a more artful way to get to the same place, I think that's a good idea. And whether you put that in the RFP that's drafted for permanent council, or whether this contract gets revised to do that, if there is a better way to ask the same question, I'm certainly open to that.
Okay. So those are my questions on that. As far as the resolution, I'd like to be on record regarding two particular statements. Whereas at the December 10th, 2018 meeting of the Tiverton Town Council, Vice President Justin Katz proposed a special meeting to interview and appoint Attorney Giovanni Ciccione, Cameron and Middleman, LLP, as town solicitor, and the council set said meeting for December 27, 2018, the agenda of which allowed for the consideration of other attorneys. I'd like to be on record as saying that is not what happened at that meeting. There was no indication that we were appointing anyone on the 27th. Councilor Katz did recommend or throw out Attorney Ciccione's name. Councilor Coulter said other people could be considered, and if you go back and you actually watch the tape, the discussion was that we would bring Mr. Ciccione down here, and he could come and we could ask him questions. But there was no proposal regarding appointing any person in particular, including Mr. Ciccione, on the 27th. So I'd like to be on record saying that I don't agree with that. And as far as the whereas that says the administrative effectuation of the intent and purpose of the vote is implicit, inherent, and customary in votes of bodies such as the vote of December 27, 2018. Again, I'd like to be on record as saying I don't agree with that. I think the open meetings laws in Rhode Island are very clear as to what you're doing via the agenda, and there was no indication based on the agenda item as presented that a ratification of a contract, again, that the body hadn't seen, was part of the agenda item. So I would like to be on record saying that those two things I'm particularly troubled by. Those are my comments. Thank you.
I also would like to go on record as that.
Rob, also, it was not advertised, it was the firm. It was just advertised, it was Mr. Ciccione, that we were meeting, and never on the formal agenda did it mention the firm at all, which was appointed.
I'm sorry, just if I could back up to Tricia, could you just point me to which of the whereas? I just want to make a note.
This one.
The second one. Page 2.
I mean, I'll be honest, I have a problem
2
with a
and
bunch
3.
of them, but those are the two in particular that I,
Rob,
It was page
2
3,
here.
right?
Actually, okay. All right. I'm not sure. I think maybe Joe is next, or did you have it?
No, I just said I wanted to go on record as also
Ditto.
those two, yep.
Okay, very well. Okay. Any further comment? And so the minutes from this meeting will specifically reflect those, is that, I know we're suggesting the minutes can be a little shorter, but I think that when somebody asks for something specifically to be noted, then we should make sure it's specifically
Could we-
noted. Is that fair?
Could we include the language from the resolution in the minutes, or is that?
I think they're automatically swept up by incorporation. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, like, the text of it, not just reference to them.
Okay,
No, she'll
the
put the
full
whole
motion
thing in
should
there.
be in the minutes, should appear in the minutes. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Also there.
And again, just trying to, at the risk of belaboring it, I think whatever was on video, that'll be easy to validate. And if somebody would like to suggest some edits, I didn't hear any disagreement on intent, but if anybody wants to suggest any wording changes, then I think that I'm hearing that we'd be open to do that. So, okay. Is there any objection to proceeding to a vote?
no.
We have a live motion. All those in favor as presented? And those opposed? 4-3. Okay, thank you very much. We now will proceed to closed executive session. We have a large number of items, and I think I have to read all of them. Is that right? Thank you. So, do we need a roll call vote on every case, or can we take the roll call vote as a block? Okay. So the first item is, at the request of the town administrator, collective bargaining, Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2 for the IBPO and IAFF. That would be our police officers and firefighter negotiations. May I have a motion to go in executive session?
So moved.
And
Second.
I have
Second.
I had Justin on primary and Nancy on second. Roll call vote, Mr. Perry?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Aye.
Yes.
And then remaining in executive session, sponsored by the town solicitor, litigation, Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A5. We have quite a few of these. I'm going to read them all, and then we'll take a omnibus roll call vote. Everybody's okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to start with what we call the trust cases through our Rhode Island Interlocal Trust, if I've said that right. Number 1, Vieira versus Leonard. I'm going to drop the et als, so those are the primary caption parties. Civil action number NC 2003-0672. Number 2, Pelletier and Tiger Tree Landscaping v. Tiverton. Number 3, McGuire v. Tiverton. That's in the Federal District Court, civil action number 14411. Wardell v. Tiverton. Faulkner v. Surratt and Gonzalo, civil action number NC 2013-0443. Boyette v. Tiverton. DeMello, Washonk's Realty and Century 21 v. Tiverton, civil action number NC 2016-0241. Tiverton v. Lee Shore Realty, Shore Road case, civil action NC 2016-0462. McGinnis v. Tiverton, civil action number NC 2017-0169. William and Deborah McLaughlin v. De Medeiros et al., Federal District Court, civil action number 16648. And Cheryl Moore v. Tiverton Police Department. Those are the 11 trust cases as they've been grouped here. And then we proceed to what we've called the town cases. There are several more. Number 12 is McGinnis v. Tiverton Zoning Board, 13, Bay Street contamination. That's all we have on that? Is that fair? Everybody knows what that means? Okay. Number 14, LAL Construction, Inc., Site-Ready Materials cases. Number 15, Nevergall v. Robert. Number 16, RIDEM, that would be the Stafford Pond lawsuit, so-called. 17, Deutsche Bank versus Butterworth. 18, Tiverton v. Shelton. 19, Karam v. Robert. 20, Tiverton Point LLC v. Robert. 21, McLaughlin v. Tiverton. SU 2017-156. What's the SU? Superior Court, actually. Oh, Superior Court, okay. 22, Tiverton v. Chemico Holdings LLC and Johnson. 23, Tiverton v. Turcott et al. 24, Waltz v. Tiverton Zoning Board. 25, Tiverton v. Katz. Please note, Counselor Katz will be recusing on that item. And finally, number 26, Coulter, Driggs, and Katz v. Tiverton. Note that Coulter, Driggs, and Katz will all be recusing. So that is 11 trust cases and 26 town cases, plus collective bargaining. And did I do the math wrong?
15 town cases.
Yeah.
Oh, it starts at 12. I apologize. 26 cases in all. 26 cases in all. May I have an omnibus motion, please?
Motion.
And a second?
I'll second it.
And a roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Very well, we now proceed to